Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into a concept that feels both brand new and ancient all at once. It's this profound idea that everything, and I mean everything, is connected in a way that modern science is just now starting to catch up with.
So let's just jump right in with the big question, the one that sits at the heart of this whole thing. What if everything in our universe, from the biggest star down to the smallest cell in your body, is secretly linked together by some kind of invisible, intelligent field?
You know, scientists are now starting to talk about this connection as a tightly woven web, even calling it the fabric of creation. It's the stuff that fills up all that supposedly empty space. You know, the space between an atom's nucleus and its electrons, or the vast dark distances between galaxies. It's the raw material for everything we can see and touch. Okay, so let's get into this, because the idea of a giant connecting web isn't some new age fantasy. Nope. It actually has a pretty fascinating and almost forgotten history right in the heart of mainstream science. So, picture this. It's a little over a century ago. You've got these incredible minds walking around, thinkers like Planck, Bohr, and Einstein. And back then, this idea of a connecting field was actually a pretty hot topic. It was definitely controversial, but it was a serious theory, and it had a name: the ether. See, the thinking was that all of creation was somehow swimming in this ether field. And to finally settle the debate, this really famous experiment was set up in 1887. But the results of that single experiment would literally cause science to throw out the whole idea of a connecting field for almost 100 years, completely shaping modern physics, biology, the whole shebang. And that is what led to what you could call the Great Disconnect. For over a century, our whole scientific model was built on the idea that the universe is just a bunch of separate things, that what happens over here has basically no real effect on what happens way over there. So what's so wild is how they interpreted that experiment. The logic was actually pretty simple. If this ether field is real, then the Earth must be moving through it. And if we're moving through it, we should be able to feel some kind of ether wind. But the experiment found nothing. It's kind of like wetting your finger, holding it up, feeling no breeze, and deciding that air itself must not exist. Because they felt no wind, they just concluded the whole field wasn't there. End of story. But then, things started to get weird. In the late 20th century, new experiments started popping up that just didn't fit the old model. Get this. In one, they took cells from a donor's mouth, put them in another room, and those cells still reacted instantly when the donor had an emotional experience. In another, particles of light actually held the shape of a DNA molecule, even after the DNA was taken away. The bottom line was, something was connecting them. The old story was starting to fall apart. Right. So all this new evidence needed a new way of thinking about things, and it definitely needed a new name. You couldn't just call it the ether again, because that name had too much historical baggage. So instead, science got a reboot, and with it, a new concept: the quantum hologram. Now, I know that sounds super technical and complicated, but the simplest way to think about it is this. The quantum hologram is the stuff that lives in between the nothing. It's the energy that fills every single space we used to think was just empty. It's everywhere, all the time. It's already there. So what is a hologram anyway? Well, it's a special kind of pattern where every single piece of it, no matter how tiny, holds the information for the entire pattern. Think about a holographic bookmark. If you were to cut that bookmark into 100 tiny pieces, each little piece would still show the whole picture. And that right there is the key principle. If you make a change anywhere in a hologram, that change is instantly reflected everywhere. Now, what's absolutely mind-blowing is that this isn't just some modern physics idea. Ancient traditions were talking about this exact same principle thousands of years ago. There's a Buddhist sutra that describes this thing called Indra's net. It's this cosmic net that stretches out forever, and at every single knot in the net, there's a glittering jewel. And here's the kicker. The surface of every single jewel reflects all the other jewels. It's a perfect ancient description of a hologram. So, okay, this is where it gets really powerful. Because understanding this changes everything about our place in the universe. It shifts us from just being bystanders, watching it all happen, to being crucial, active participants in the world we see around us. So, if this is all true, if we really are living in a holographic universe where every single part reflects the whole, what does that actually mean for you? For me? For the choices we make every single day of our lives? Let me tell you a quick story that just perfectly illustrates this. On a trip in Tibet, someone came across this craftsman, just sitting by himself, surrounded by these huge piles of flat stones. And he was just totally absorbed, carefully chiseling these beautiful, sacred prayers onto every single one. And when he was asked, "Hey, what are you going to do with all these prayer stones?" he just pointed and said, "Look around you." And then it became obvious. The walls and the foundations of all the buildings in his village, some of them 4 or 5 stories high, were made from these very stones, just stacked one on top of the other. So why was he doing it? His answer was just profound. He basically said that as he put peace and love and focus into carving every single letter on every single stone, he knew that his personal experience was becoming part of the whole community. It was his way of contributing to the peace of the entire world. And look, this isn't just a nice little spiritual metaphor. In science, there's a technical term for this. It's called sensitive dependence on initial conditions, but you probably know it as the butterfly effect, right? The idea that a really small local change, like a butterfly flapping its wings in one part of the world, can ripple out and create huge distant effects, like a hurricane somewhere else. The little things, they matter. A lot. And this is because we are holographic by our very nature. I mean, you can see it right in our bodies. Every single one of your cells has the complete DNA blueprint to create another you. And it goes beyond our bodies. Our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, they're all vibrations that interact with this universal holographic field. It means the choices we make inside of ourselves ripple outward, becoming our collective reality. What we become on the inside is literally mirrored back to us as the world around us.
So I guess it all comes down to this one final question. If what you become in your own life is mirrored in your family, in your community, even between nations, if your personal choices really do echo throughout the entire fabric of creation, what will you choose to become?